country was once the murder capital of the world. For decades, rival gangs ruled the streets of El Salvador.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the events unfolding around the world that you may not have been aware of, but should definitely know about. Number 10. North Korea and Russia's first road bridge.
중에서도 서로 두 나라 인민들이 오래전부터 바라고 반기던 일, 서로 사이의 다방면적인 교류와 경제적 연계 발전을 힘있게 주동하는 데서 실질적이고도 중대한 우위를 가지는 사업으로 되는.
As Russian President Vladimir Putin continues to demonstrate a lack of interest in ending the bloody Russo-Ukrainian war, his ties to Kim Jong-un and the authoritarian regime of North Korea only seem to grow stronger.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin has thanked the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for providing troops to help Russia fight Ukraine. Hours earlier, Pyongyang admitted for the first time it had deployed soldiers to the conflict. It said it helped, in its words, to liberate the Russian region of Kursk.
Following North Korea's confirmation that it had sent troops to Russia to assist with the ongoing war effort, the two countries announced the construction of a road bridge between them in late April of 2025. Said Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin, the bridge, quote, symbolizes our common desire to strengthen friendly, good neighborly relations and increase interregional cooperation, end quote. The bridge, which will span the Tumen River, is expected to be completed by the middle of 2026.
And on the Russian side of the border, there's even a house of friendship built for the state's founder, Kim Il-sung, to commemorate his state visit to Moscow in 1949.
Number 9. The Liberal Party of Canada's unprecedented political comeback.
So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
2024 was not kind to former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Amidst a sagging economy and dire approval ratings, Trudeau was dealt a fatal blow by the surprise resignation of Chrystia Freeland, his longtime Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Trudeau was ultimately left with no choice but to resign his post, while the Conservative Party surged in the polls and looked all but guaranteed to secure a majority government.
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection. We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber.
The second presidency of Donald Trump, however, flipped the situation on its head, with Trump's threats of tariffs and annexation dominating the Canadian political landscape. Economist Mark Carney was elected the leader of Trudeau's Liberal Party and in a stunning turnaround secured the party its fourth consecutive mandate.
You know, I chose to enter politics because I felt we needed big changes in this country. But big changes guided by strong Canadian values. Values that I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verley, and from my siblings.
Number 8. Myanmar Civil War.
The UN estimates more than 18 million people are in desperate need of humanitarian assistance, but aid agencies are struggling to get access to the country. There are more than 5,000 people living in this camp for internally displaced persons close to the Thai border.
While the world has been gripped by seemingly unending conflicts in Europe and the Middle East, a no less disturbing struggle has gone tragically overlooked by the global community. Myanmar, a Southeast Asian country bordering India and China, among others, has experienced decades of internal conflict since gaining independence from Britain in 1948.
There is a massive number of surrenders to the People's Revolution side.
We know that morale is very low, that they have introduced conscription and are literally kidnapping young men to fight in the military.
Sending them to the front line, using as a human shield. This is the biggest crime going on in Burma.
Following a military coup in 2021, the country has descended into one of its most severe crises yet. a full-scale civil war between the military junta, known as the State Administration Council, and the pro-democracy National Unity Government. With nearly 80,000 deaths reported and more than 3 million people displaced, Myanmar's humanitarian crisis continues to deepen while the international community struggles to chart a path toward peace. Number 7. Haitian crisis. Afflicted by more than 2 centuries of political turbulence, foreign occupations, and repeated natural disasters, Haiti has also suffered deadly disease outbreaks such as cholera. In 2018, rising fuel prices and deepening economic hardship sparked mass protests and calls for President Jovenel Moïse to resign.
On Tuesday, Moïse attempted to force out 3 judges who were proposed as potential interim national leaders to replace him. They included interim opposition leader Joseph Messin Jean-Louis. Moïse has been ruling by decree for a year because there's no parliament right now. Legislative elections due in 2018 were delayed.
After years of mounting unrest and a reported coup attempt earlier in 2021, Moïse was assassinated in July of that year. Since then, Haiti has had no elected officials, and much of the country has fallen into the grip of increasingly violent gang conflict with no end in sight. Number 6. Georgian political crisis.
This is an attempt not to steal the results of one party's support, but this is an attempt to steal Georgia's European future.
Georgian dream cannot remain in power in this country. These are stolen elections.
Canada wasn't the only country facing a recent and very important election. However, the situation is far more complex in the Eastern European and West Asian country of Georgia. The former Soviet republic has been embroiled in a constitutional crisis since its October 2024 elections, which have been described by international watchdog groups as compromised and not free and fair. The right-wing Georgian Dream Party has been accused of undermining democracy, all while promoting ties to Russia and parroting Kremlin misinformation.
More than 1 million of our citizens came to the polling stations and supported peace, our country's truly bright and European future. Georgian people are the main authors of this victory.
Incumbent President Salome Zorabishvili continues to be acknowledged by the international community as Georgia's rightful head of state, while the current administration has gone unrecognized by the European Union.
An independent Georgian election monitoring group reported cases of violence outside several polling stations. There was a video, we saw it in the report right now on social media, that showed a man stuffing several ballot papers into a ballot box. However, the Central Election Commission declared that the election was peaceful and free.
Number 5. The situation in Sahel.
Between the vast Sahara Desert and the dense foliage of the African rainforest is a band of semi-arid grassland. Known as the Sahel, the landscape is one of Africa's most productive crop regions. But the crops in the Sahel are grown close to their limits of tolerance and rely on natural rainfall.
There's a very real possibility that you've never heard of this African biogeographical region. Spanning the tropics of North Africa and countries like Senegal, Mali, Niger, Chad, and more, the Sahel has routinely been faced with fundamental issues that threaten its inhabitants' way of life.
They are largely desert areas, lots of pastoralist communities, a lot of Berber communities. The southern parts of those countries tend to be much greener. They are considered to be the bread baskets of that region. But for the most part, the Sahel is a dry, vast desert area that stretches from Mali all the way to Sudan.
Described by the Norwegian Refugee Council as, quote, the world's most neglected and conflict-ridden region. Sahel has been noted by The Economist for its disproportionate incidence of terrorist violence. That is, as much as 35% of the world's deaths from terrorism in 2021. The Sahel's location has also left it vulnerable to severe droughts and famines, which is only expected to be exacerbated by worsening climate change.
The grain stores ran out in February, forcing Mamadou's family to eat the seeds they should be planting to harvest in September. But even that wasn't enough for his sister-in-law and her baby, who have already died.
Our sheep are dying, our goats and our cows are dying. Even we are dying here.
Number 4. Rohingya Genocide.
We have seen the villages burning very, very clearly. All these places were totally covered with smoke.
At the height of this crisis, how many people were crossing per day?
In one wave, there will be 10 to 15,000.
In a day?
In a day. They had to cross this river, but there were too many persons in one boat. So there were capsizing of the boats. We have to recover lots of dead bodies.
Although Myanmar's Muslim Rohingya people have faced decades of systemic persecution, a brutal military crackdown that began in late 2016 and escalated dramatically in August 2017 has resulted in mass killings and widespread displacement. The genocide perpetrated by the Tatmadaw, Myanmar's military, has led to the deaths of thousands, with some estimates placing the toll at over 10,000.
Rohingya have lived in Myanmar for centuries, but they're not officially recognized as one of the country's 135 ethnic groups. The government denies them citizenship and claims they're illegal immigrants that have crossed over from Bangladesh, making them essentially a stateless people.
Assalamu alaikum. Ara Rohingya zati. Ara hokkan. Ara duniyatun sai.
Described by the United Nations and numerous human rights groups as a clear case of ethnic cleansing, the violence has forced over 740,000 Rohingya to flee, primarily to Bangladesh, with others escaping to India, Malaysia, and beyond. Myanmar's military regime has dismissed these allegations as exaggeration, even as it faces international condemnation. In recent years, the Tatmadaw has also been accused of forcibly conscripting civilians, including children, into its ranks.
We have evidence, we have proof that Myanmar government is committing genocide against Rohingya. The Myanmar government and ultra-nationalist Buddhist hate Rohingya people due to nationalism, fueled racism, and Islamophobia.
Number 3. Salvadoran gang crackdown.
Thousands are now behind bars and the country is transforming before people's eyes, but there is a dark underside that's hidden from view. Human rights groups are dismayed, as are relatives, as more than 65,000 people have been arrested over the past year.
Upon taking office in 2019, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele made tackling his country's relentless wave of gang violence a top priority. His territorial control plan aims to deal a crushing blow to such criminal organizations as MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang, among others. While Bukele claims that this plan reduced homicides by as much as 50% in the first year, things really escalated in March of 2022 after a particularly deadly weekend in El Salvador.
Rumores que quieren empezarse a vengar de la gente honrada, al azar. Hagan eso y no va a haber un tiempo de comida en las cárceles. Uno. A ver cuánto tiempo duran sus homeboys allá adentro.
For days, the president touting the efforts on social media under the hashtag War on Gangs.
In response, President Bukele approved a state of emergency, and as of March 2025, over 84,000 people with alleged ties to gangs have been arrested. This approach has drawn concern from international observers, who have cautioned the president to act with respect to due process and civil liberties.
Human rights are meant to be there to help us. It's true that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But my son has been inside for a year, and to investigate someone, you don't need a year. It should be 2 weeks at most, 3 months at the very maximum. But my son has been there for a whole year.
Number 2. Water scarcity in Central Asia. As we mentioned a little earlier, world governments are increasingly drawing attention to the worsening problem of climate change. While it's worth pointing out that there is enough water for everyone on the planet, the issue lies in specific geopolitical contexts. Take the arid climate of Central Asia, where glaciers constitute an important part of the region's water supply. As those glaciers retreat, so too does the amount of water available to those who need it. As pointed out by the American think tank the Atlantic Council, quote, "The Aral Sea has shrunk by more than 90% since the 1960s due to the diversion of its tributaries, the Amu Darya and Sir Darya, for large-scale irrigation." Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. The famine in Madagascar.
This is what climate change looks like. The Manambova River in Madagascar, or what's left of it now. A brown ribbon on a parched landscape. After 5 years with barely any rain, more than 1 million people in the south are facing severe hunger or starvation.
In case you hadn't already guessed it, climate change may be the single greatest issue that humanity faces in the 21st century. Case in point, the ongoing famine in the African island country of Madagascar, precipitated by decades' worth of natural disasters, including a locust plague of biblical proportions. The crisis was only made exponentially worse by the region's worst drought in an estimated 40 years. The famine is the first in human history to have been chalked up to climate change rather than war or conflict. Although the country has made efforts to invest in critical infrastructure and end the famine, we should all take note of just what climate change can do.
C'est vrai qu'il y a le changement climatique qui occasionne beaucoup de sécheresse. Et la dernière que nous avons connue dure depuis plusieurs années. Et la conséquence, c'est qu'effectivement, là où on pouvait produire, il n'est plus possible de le faire parce que des sources d'eau tarissent, ainsi de suite.
Which event on our list shocked you the most? Are there any that we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.